Welcome to tutorial 3 for ContentDM. This tutorial will focus on adding items to your collection. So in this tutorial, I'm going to assume that you have already set up your field structures in the Collections tab. So what you need to do is you need to head over to the Items tab, which you can see I'm already in. So again, the first thing that you should always do is check that you are in the right collection. Yes, I am in Kathleen's test, and that is exactly where I want to be. So the first thing that you want to do is add an item. So you click on add. And I've added some extra fields in to my collection. These are just a few, they're not extensive, and that's not an entire collection, but just to give you guys an idea of what sort of things you can add, what sort of fields you can add, and the type of thing you'll be doing when you add an item. So you've clicked on adding an item because you've already selected it, and you will have selected that in your report. And the first thing that you'll notice when you come in is it will ask you to add, when you add an item, what you either need to do is you need to either add an item by attaching a file or by attaching a URL. So what that means is if you were selecting a book, for example, which is what I'm going to be doing today, you can choose an item to add, and I'm going to choose a Anne of Green Gables is what I'm uploading. So I'll say an Anne of Green Gables, which will be my, the book cover, the picture that's going to be there, or I could have done that via a URL. So you might want to link out to something like Amazon, or it might be a website that you are using, something like that. And then I come to add the metadata. So title Anne of Green Gables, author L.M. Montgomery. And then what you do is you come down to the subject. Now with subject, what I've done here is I've actually used a controlled vocabulary to do mine. So when you click on this controlled vocabulary tab, what it will tell me is that there's a controlled vocabulary for the subject field. And just for fun, I've chosen the Canadian subject headings for that field. So for some reason that's failed, so we'll try that again, and we'll see if we can get the controlled vocabulary up. And what you'll see when it comes up is that I've just selected a controlled vocabulary that was already there, and as I said, I have selected the Library of Congress, the Canadian subject headings. So this is a very long list. Let's just look down for fiction, see if we can find it. Fantasy fiction. Let's go with feminist fiction. Probably doesn't fit that subject, but anyway, this is just to show you what to do. With this, you don't click on it, you don't do anything. What you need to do when you have a controlled vocabulary is highlight what you want, copy, and paste it into that field. So for language, I've also got a controlled vocabulary, but what I did with this one is it actually, with my language controlled vocabulary, when you click on that, you see nothing comes up. That's because when I set up the controlled vocabulary, I told it to select from things that were already in the fields. So I wanted an automatically generated one from the things already in the fields. I don't have any information in any of the fields yet. So when I start entering information in the fields, they'll start populating my controlled vocabulary. So I'll say it's in English. And then obviously you would have more fields here. You might have description, date, all these things. As I said, this is just to show you a brief overview. And then at the bottom you can select a thumbnail. So you can use a ContentDM thumbnail or you can use a custom thumbnail. So again, you might want to add a book cover in here, or you might have a little icon. You might want to go and find icons to add to your collection so that you can easily spot visually what is an internet item, things like that. So it's up to you how you do that. When you've finished adding all the information about your item, you simply click add, and what will happen is that item will get added into the collection. But what you need to go through a few other steps before it's actually viewable and in your collection. So once you've clicked add, it will say, yep, okay, it's added it to the collection. Then what you need to do is you need to approve the item. So when you're doing this yourself, what you might like to do is add 3 or 4 items at a time. before you go and approve them, rather than adding, approving, adding, approving. So you can just go through and add as many as you want. And then when you want them to appear in your collection, you hit on the Approve tab, and you'll see what will come up will be where I can basically approve the item to go into my collection. Now, we talked in the previous tutorial about indexing. And when you come to the approval screen, what you can see is that you can approve the item, approve one item, or you can approve and index all the items. I recommend that you approve and index at the same time. Otherwise, you're just going through that extra step, which is going into index, scheduling an index. So I recommend that you would approve and index all to make it a little bit quicker. If you wanted to review any of your items, you can see the items that I'm going to do here. You can edit it and you can double check it before you approve it. So what I'll do is I'll approve an index, and I basically hit all, and it will approve and index that item. So it does take a little while to go through and approve and index the collection. So I'll just show you a couple of other things while we are waiting for that process to happen. And what you might have noticed when we were in the collection and you've added your items is, while we're waiting for this to happen, what you can do is you can click in, when you have added items, you can click on View Collection. I've already done this and got it open. So you might want to view your collection to see what it looks like. And here's my collection so far. You can see I'm browsing items in Kathleen's test. And here's the item that I've just added, the title, the subject, and that type of thing. And when I click on the title, you'll see that more information will come through about the item. Now, at the moment, this website for my collection isn't looking very flash. We are going to, in future tutorials, look at ways that you can make your collection more user-friendly and how you can present it in different ways, how you can make the website look more attractive where your collection's housed. But for these initial tutorials, it's basically just going through and getting the items in there. So as you can see, it's got the description there, and the image will come up there in a second of the book title that I entered. Okay, so that's basically how to add and approve items. If you want to edit items, you can also go into Edit your items, and so once they've been added to your collection, you can go in and you can edit any items that you want to in this view. So that's just a basic overview of how to add and edit items and how to view your collection. As I said, as we go through and start learning about which fields to add, it will become sort of clearer what we need to do. And I'll just quickly show you this. The easiest way to edit items, rather than doing this, is just to click Browse Collection, and that'll bring up all the items in your collection, which will make it much easier to find the item that you wanted to edit. So you can just edit items that way in your collection. Okay, so you can see there's my one item, and I can select it and start editing it from there by clicking on metadata to edit. Okay, so that's the third tutorial, which is about adding items to your collection. And as I said, in future tutorials, we will look at more about presenting your website and your collection in a different way. Thanks.